Gateway drug was a government-backed trial for vehicle to grid.
Wow.
Long term is you can't rely on someone else's offering of a tariff, whether that be an import rate or an export rate.
No.
For anything that you're considering buying that requires a big chunk up front.
Hello, Paul. Thank you for coming on the latest episode of the Energy Unwrapped podcast. Wonderful to see you.
Thanks for having me. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a while. We've been on a few podcasts, or been invited on podcasts together, and had some chats. Yeah, but this first time sort of face to face. So the reason I wanted to get you on is we've got a lot in common. We're homeowner nerds. What is a lovely term?
Homeowner nerds, indeed, geeks.
Yeah, homeowner nerds, homeowner geeks. We have got real jobs that not in energy, and sort of this is just our sort of nerdy passion and sort of interest. So it's probably worth starting off asking you, what does that real world look like? Who you really are, and what? How did you get into renewables? What was the first sort of toe in the water, and what's the journey been like, and where are you now?
Okay, so I've got my own business doing diagnostics support for the motor trade. So basically I go to garages and fix the cars that no one else wants to or can fix. Avoids going to dealerships, things like that. Very busy at the moment. Lots of broken cars.
So that's ICE cars, not EVs.
Both, but the EVs. Yeah, I'm EV certified. Have been for a long time. I did it with manufacturer training years ago, but actually they just don't go wrong as often. So I don't see much on them.
And basically, computers are just cars are just computers these days.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, well, there's a lot of computers in cars. Yeah, that's for sure. 40 plus in most of the newer ones.
Wow. Yeah, and it's the communication between all these little pieces that stops working.
Yeah, all the data that's whizzing around the networks that it doesn't like. One fault, one single sensor fault can cascade to multiple faults in a vehicle, and they all share the same data
and potentially not give you the right answer.
Quite often people get misled by the descriptions of fault codes and lack of product knowledge or understanding.
Does that involve you plugging your own sort of scanner in, or?
Yeah, that's usually the starting point. But yeah, it's not reading stuff. It's knowing what to believe at face value and what you need to dig a bit further. Still, my favourite tool is a multimeter. It's usually the thing that gets me out of a hole. Whereas you can have the fanciest scanners in the world, and they still tell you the same junk that the manufacturer programmed in the first place. Yeah. Which can be misleading.
Cool.
But I guess that's why they call me.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah. Carry on making them rubbish. Pays my mortgage.
Dare we ask which brands are worse than others?
To be honest, they're all. It's probably not brands. It's probably more diesel. I'd say avoid if you can avoid. If nowadays,
right.
Unless you're doing the miles to justify the additional fuel or the better fuel economy, the servicing and repair costs are that much higher.
Right.
But they've had more emissions technology sooner, and now petrol is starting to catch up with particulate filters and things that get expensive quickly, which diesel have had for years now, but petrol are now starting to catch up. So generally combustion is becoming squeezed hard from an emissions point of view, and it's adding to the cost of repair.
Yeah, and the tax on tax on the other ones.
Yeah, and you don't see cars that have done the mileage that you used to see. You used to see 200,000 mile cars quite regularly, and they were looked after. That was realistic. Nowadays, you just don't see it. Twice as bright, half as long. Anyway,
cool. So, what renewables then? Tell me about how you got into renewables and what was your gateway drug?
Gateway drug was a government-backed trial for vehicle to grid.
Wow.
So my wife had a dirty old diesel Golf that had done 250,000 miles, and
we all had a dirty old Golf at some stage.
You know what? It was a great car, but
Oh, I
it
loved
kind
it.
of got to the point where it wasn't worth throwing any more money at it, and we were looking at other options, and we looked at EV because mileage was quite predictable. We had a driveway, so we thought, well, let's have a look.
Yeah.
And we went and drove. This was back in 2019, so there wasn't an awful lot of choices in the used market. So it was pretty much Zoe or Nissan Leaf.
Yeah.
Well, no, Zoe, Nissan Leaf. Couldn't afford a Tesla for sure. And we've settled on the Nissan Leaf. And when we got the Leaf, did a bit more digging after we got it. And OVO were doing a government-backed trial through Bayes at the time for investigating vehicle to grid and its usefulness to grid services and researching the effects on vehicles. So kind of like a double whammy. And we signed up for that and we were accepted. And we got a whacking great vehicle to grid charger installed. They dug up the road, the DNO dug up the road to upgrade the power cable coming into the house because we had a shared connection with our neighbour. It wasn't looped, it was spliced.
Oh.
Yeah, even worse. So you couldn't, there was no external sign that that's what had happened other than the plans from the DNO, which thankfully showed it.
Wow.
But they had to dig the road up and run a dedicated feed.
What were you limited to then with that splice?
Well, we had a 60 amp fuse.
Oh.
But they wanted, part of the technical requirements of the trial were 100 amp supply, which to be honest, it's never needed.
No.
But that was, I mean, even now, with everything that we've got installed since we've had that fitted, we've never been anywhere near 100 amps.
Well, for context, a 7 kilowatt charger is 32 amps. So
yeah, I mean we have a fully electric home, heat pump, battery, 2 EVs, with everything on at the same time. I think the most we've ever been near is 80. Yeah. And that's literally as maximum we could ever draw.
And that max demand is likely just spread over the day. Anyway, you won't be having the oven on while you're charging the car, and it's this diversity sort of check that they do.
And the reality is technology has got better, and EV chargers and other high consuming devices like batteries have got grid monitoring, so they
use a CT clamp, don't they? Like my Zappy's got a CT clamp, so it measures the whole house load, and if needs be, it can turn itself down to keep it under whatever limit you say. If you're on 60 amp, it'll keep you below 60. Or
generally anything new now is what G100 compliant, so it'll limit its current consumption.
Yeah. I was at 60. I had a 60 amp main breaker, and I asked to be put up to 100, and then they came and said, "We're not putting any hundreds in. You can have an 80." I'm like, okay.
They just pulled the fuse and put a new one in.
Yeah, that were it.
Yeah.
And he also said that if they are called out to any sort of job and they see 100, they're going to drop them to 80.
Yeah. I haven't got an issue with that. I think if you're the abilities of equipment now to keep within that 80 threshold, there's no real excuse for needing more than that. If you do, you need 3-phase.
Yeah.
That might sound a bit harsh, but for everybody to have access to all these things, they've got to be a little bit limited. If everybody had 100 amp supply, it would up the cost of running the infrastructure so much more that it's
and like we said, you'd never need that 80 amps because you're not running everything at the same time. So what battery size was in that Leaf then?
That was a 30. So that was which was the one we could afford. Right. There was the 40 had come out at that point, but it was the newer shape and considerably more expensive.
Have you still got that Leaf?
No, the 30's gone. We upgraded that last year.
From what I read, the 30s is the worst of the batteries for health and life. So I didn't want to say it was terrible if you still had it.
No, it's terrible. I mean, it was, I think, when it was 3 years old and 13,000 miles when we bought it, a full charge would get it 125 miles, 130 miles absolute top in summer. By the time it had done 80,000 miles, it was full charge, topped absolute maximum was 90 on a summer's day. and on a winter's day it was in the high 70s. So yeah, there was a pretty big degradation on that one. But the 30 was known to be a problem.
Yeah, because is it something with no thermal cooling or something? The 24 was actually better.
The 24 had seemed to like degrade and then stay where it was for a long time, and then you see them now with loads of old, but they're not really any worse than they were 5 or 6 years ago. Whereas the 30
falls off a cliff and then sort of steadies. Yeah. So the trial, the vehicle to grid trial then, the charger, vehicle to grid chargers are expensive, and I think they probably were even more expensive when you started this trial.
Well, there were no commercial vehicle to grid chargers when the trial was started. They commissioned Indra to make and develop a vehicle to grid charger, which they did, and that was a 6 kilowatt bidirectional charger, which they said if they had to sell it commercially would be like £5,000 or £6,000.
Wow!
Back in 2020 that was, or the beginning of 2020. Wallbox have done one now, the Quasar, but they don't make it anymore, which Octopus used as part of their trial
Yeah.
But they're all based on CHAdeMO, which is
I was going to say that the reason why the Leaf was so popular and was compatible with the vehicle to grid is that it has the CHAdeMO charging system and the CHAdeMO plug rather than the Type 2 that became the norm. I sort of you're of a certain age, so I compare this to the VHS and Betamax sort of thing. That the
Betamax was technically better allegedly, but the VHS won.
Yeah, well, I think that's the same with CHAdeMO. So
CHAdeMO is technically better.
Out of the box had vehicle to grid bi-directional, and Type 2 is they're still arguing over the standards.
Well, the standards for CCS DC was only established, I think, 2023.
Yeah.
So they're 15 years behind in terms of a standard, creating a standard and then working to it.
Yeah.
Whereas CHAdeMO was
Betamax was like Sony and Sanyo.
Yeah, something.
I can't remember who else. But then VHS was like JVC, Ferguson Video Star. Remember them?
Yeah.
Like everyone jumped on it was just because it just got popular. And I think that's
big brands.
Yeah, lots more brands signed up to it. So anyway, we're not on an 80s video podcast. But anyway.
Retro. Memory lane.
Yeah, showing his age.
I remember pulling video recorders apart to fix them. I know that when I was about 10, just for fun.
So that was your first. So that was your first toe in the water renewables. Was that sort of enlightening or what?
It didn't really. I mean, it wasn't really. Other than that, probably figuring out what a kilowatt hour was because that was in the charge history, was in kilowatt hours.
Yeah.
Probably the first time I've really seen it in a practical use, in real terms. But as a very selfish and financial side of that trial, there was an option that if you didn't have solar, they paid you a certain export rate to offset the losses and the potential degradation of your battery. So you had a really good export rate and a slightly discounted import rate at the time. The other option you had was a slightly less export rate, but you got paid it for everything, including any solar you had. So it was better than the current 15 pence that Octopus are doing.
Yeah.
It was mid-20s, I think it was.
Wow.
So the decision was, well, do we put solar in now? Well, we've got this enhanced export rate, so it pays for itself quicker. And that's what we did. So that summer, the charger was fitted in just after Christmas, once the road had been dug up. The solar was fitted in the summer. The summer, and because of the enhanced export, I think we got just over £2,000 back that first year.
Wow.
In that enhanced export payment.
What year was that?
Was the car. So that was the solar plus what the car had delivered back to the grid during high demand periods.
So was this after the end of the feed-in tariff?
Yeah, I don't know. To to be honest.
When was it?
At the time, I hadn't really considered feed-in tariffs because I'd never looked at solar before. This was the gateway, and it was it was pure. It was a bit of a selfish thing. It was. Oh, I'd like solar, but I can't really make the numbers stack up. But then when we got this and looked a bit further into it, and the numbers were favourable, we thought, actually, now's a good time to do it because we're not going to have this opportunity again at this sort of payment.
And this is a lot of. I think a lot of customers are in this, like regular people are in this dilemma of, will it pay for itself? And I don't understand it enough to. I suppose you're relying a lot on your installer and things you read, and it's really hard to make.
It is hard. I mean, a good installer can run the modelling. I mean, most decent solar design software has some sort of financial modelling, and you can put in what your expected export rates are. Yeah. It'll work out your expected generation, and you can kind of have a bit of a guess at how much of that you're going to use yourself and how much you're going to export. Obviously, that will change depending on how you use it. But
I think you're probably like me in that over the period of owning solar, so much has changed. Sort of.
Oh yeah.
The import rates were, when I first signed up, the import rates were 13p, and like EV tariff, first EV tariff was like 5p, and look where we are now. It's
and go 5p.
Yeah, and I worry now that, and I do worry that people are getting solar and being sold a dream of you can get 15p exports forever, and as we've proved, they're going to change in a week's time down to 12p.
Yeah. I think you've got to be realistic. Long term is you can't rely on someone else's offering of a tariff, whether that be an import rate or an export rate.
No.
For anything that you're considering buying that requires a big chunk up front. It wasn't that long ago that people used to look at solar as a 10, 15-year payback. Yeah. And it's only recently that we've seen sort of sub 5 years with the tariffs, with the way import and export rates are. That's probably a blip. I think you've got to treat it like that it might take you 10 years to get your money back. But it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I think as long as you're conscious that it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, and that it's a long-term investment to guarantee generation and guarantee sort of a fixed price.
I think that's the thing that people forget is when they go for solar, you're almost guaranteeing your electricity rate. Yeah. Because you can, as an average over that year, you can predict that you're going to generate a certain amount of power.
And for every year you keep it, and every year you keep that solar, the price of that unit rate it goes down. It's investment divided by a number of years divided by whatever, and
and generally with inflation, long term energy prices go up over a long period. And if you've got a solar system that's got 25-year warranty on the panels, 20-year warranty on the inverter, actually, if it's worked for 20 years and you've paid that money up front, you will definitely get your money back and a lot more. Yeah. But as a long term. Yeah. Rather than get rich quick. Yeah. But, I mean, for us, it makes a big difference to our bill.
Oh yeah, same here. It's massive. So mine's already paid for itself. So
yeah. Well, I'll pay for itself really quick.
You're very lucky.
Thanks to I don't know whether that was Bays or Ovo that paid that enhanced export rate, whether it was funded or not. But either way, we took advantage of it and had it.
So what was the outcome of the trial then? Did they see that as a success?
Yeah. I think overall the trial was proved the technology works great, proved that it didn't have a detrimental impact on cars. In fact, it was a benefit to cars because it stopped them sitting at 100%, which back then, before people had clever smart chargers and understood how to look after their EV batteries, most cars spent their life either driving around or at 100%. Yeah. Because you just left them plugged in. Whereas having the vehicle to grid on there, it would cycle the battery, and it was very gentle on the battery. It was only pulling 5 or 6 kilowatts max. Right. Which compared to driving is nothing. No. And it didn't. They proved it didn't have a bad effect on the cars.
So when you got your solar, was it solar only or solar and battery?
Solar only.
Because you had the battery on the drive.
Well, yeah, that too. But at the time, batteries to go with your solar system were so expensive back in 2020. Yeah. It would have taken literally 20 years probably to get anything back on it.
Which just shows the evolution now that I've seen people selling like 15, 20 kilowatt hours for three or 4 grand. It's crazy.
I mean, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I fitted the battery, 2023. We went with the SolarEdge solar system.
Yeah, same here.
I mean, brilliant. Can't knock it at all. And great for Geek factor because you can integrate it with so many things.
Yeah, because you can look at every panel and see what every panel's doing at any minute, and it is a bit very nerdy.
Very nerdy, and there's safety benefits and stuff.
If you listen to Mark Allison and on the renewal on their renewable podcast, they're big. What do you call it? They're like big fans of SolarEdge and the whole shutdown stuff and
rapid shutdown, safe working voltages. If you unplug it, it just goes to 1 volt per panel.
Yeah,
it just made the whole lot of sense. I just looked at it and thought that's for the very not particularly big increase in price. In the great scheme of things, it was just the one to go for. And then they produced a DC battery that connects straight to the string connections.
So you don't get any losses when it comes.
You don't get any AC conversion losses when you don't need it. It'll charge from the solar directly without getting AC converted to AC.
Was it about 10 kilowatt hours?
Yeah, it's 10 kilowatt hour plated, 9.7 usable.
Yeah,
it's actually slightly big. It's a bigger battery than 10, but I don't know why they called it 10. I think we've got about. It's been in 3 years now. I think we've got usable capacity at the moment. It's about 9.2, 9.3. So it's not bad, but surprised how efficient it is.
Yeah.
In terms of round trip losses, it's actually very good.
Good. My AC coupled isn't very good on round trip losses because every time it goes in or out, it has to convert it and stuff. So
5-6% both ways.
Minimum. I think it's more than that. I think.
Yeah.
I bet it's more like.
They don't do very well with low outputs. So if you're only doing a couple of 100 watts on a big inverter, they seem to be less efficient when they're going.
Plus, I'm stuck at 3.6 because it's. 3.6 in, three. I think max 3 out or something. But there's not many occasions where the house is running that high. Yeah, the cooker's on and stuff. But I'm a bit. Yeah, maybe this title for another episode is like.
That's
do you really
need
massive inverters when the majority of the time, they're better at lower efficiency. They're more efficient at lower loads if your inverter's smaller. Because you're using a larger proportion.
Well. Newer inverters that are out now are better than they were 5-6 years ago.
Absolutely,
or 10 years ago, if you got enough. But I think if anyone's fitting a solar system now, you wouldn't limit yourself on inverter.
No.
Because if it's a DNO issue, there's a software setting, you just change it.
Yeah.
But if you're using it inside the house, you want the flexibility to use as much as you are likely to need. But ours is 6 kilowatt inverter, but the battery's limited at 5 kilowatts anyway.
Yeah.
So unless we got another battery at great expense, we don't think we need. Those rare occasions where it goes over the 5 kilowatt limit, it's fine as it is.
So you had the car, you got the solar, you got the battery, and then you were heating your house with.
A Combi gas boiler.
Everyone did.
15-year-old glowworm. Or glowworm, whatever it is. A cheap Valent, basically.
And you were sat there looking at your Home Assistant screen or your stats on a bright October day going, I'm generating 3 kilowatts from the roof and I'm burning some gas here. I'm doing this wrong.
My hot waters, I could be using what's on the roof to generate some hot water.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the way it went. It was, once you kind of have a bit of visibility going on of your energy and the consumption, and we were motivated environmentally as well. It wasn't. That's what we wanted to do. If it was affordable and it was practical, then that's the route we wanted to go down. And I'm still doing it now, but I started an OU degree looking at sustainability and renewable energy. So it was kind of probably should walk the walk. And yeah, heat pump was an obvious next step, or full electrification was the obvious next step. Get rid of the gas meter.
Had you already got a electric oven and hob?
Electric oven, but gas hob.
Yeah.
So I bought a induction hob on Marketplace, and had that done. My mate fitted that. And to be honest, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Compared to gas, I've always been a gas convert. Gas is the best way.
We were very sceptical, and my wife wouldn't let me change ours until we got Christmas out of the way, because she didn't want to ruin Christmas dinner by not having.
But no, the induction hob is so much quicker and so much more controllable.
And I thought
I realised how low. Like, you can't get a gas hob low.
No, you can look at it and you can turn that dial and you just see like a flicker of a
little flicker, then it goes out.
And then it goes out and you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Whereas induction,
I call it the beans test. Like, how low could you turn it down? And I was stunned that you can run an induction hob lower than what you could get out of gas.
Yeah, exactly. I was stunned. It was a nice welcome discovery, and I probably haven't shut up about it since we fitted it. But I love induction hob, or if you
and the cleaning, like not having to take all those bits off, all those metal bits off and scrub them all. Whereas now it's just
hated it. It's so much nice glass, smooth finish. Wipe it down, takes 10 seconds. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And the reality is, because it's that much more controllable, you don't get so many spills and messes.
No. It's brilliant.
When you turn it off, it's straight away.
Yeah. I might change the title of this podcast to induction hobs.
Induction hob. It's funny things that we talk about, isn't it?
I know, it's crazy.
What did we discover that was amazing by accident?
Yeah. So heat pump. What was your what year did you start thinking about this heat pump?
Probably started thinking about it in 21.
Wow. So back then, was that sort of the end of RHI, the start of boiler upgrade scheme?
It was probably started looking seriously when boiler upgrade scheme first came out.
So the £5,000.
That was probably the catalyst to start really looking into it.
Yeah.
I can't remember when that was, but that had gone from like having a quick look at and doing a bit of research and digging to actually we should think about and getting this sorted out. And our biggest challenge was, because we had gone from a Combi we had a Combi that was stuck in the loft. There was no hot water storage, and that had been repurposed as a laundry storage cupboard.
The airing cupboard has gone.
Airing cupboard, yeah, but the airing cupboard was fully racked out, and we were using all of it. We haven't got a massive house, and it was
you've just got like 100,000 towels.
Yeah, we got a lot of towels and lots of sheets and stuff I've never seen before. Still there. But yeah, I don't think I could have got away with replacing that storage with what would have been needed for a hot water cylinder.
Yeah.
Because obviously when that cupboard was used for hot water storage, it would have been an old copper cylinder with a jacket.
Yeah.
Maybe not even a jacket, but it would have just been a little dumpy cylinder in the bottom of the cupboard and not taken that much room up. And the reality is, if we're doing the same thing for a heat pump, it would have been a very, very tall cylinder and very narrow cylinder, because the entrance to the cupboard or the doorway is very narrow, and it's brick, so you can't just knock it down and start again. It would have been a 2 metre tall cylinder to get 200 litres capacity with the insulation that you need for a modern cylinder. Yeah. And that kind of drew the question of, what do we do? Do we put a cylinder in the loft and go through all the issues of putting a hot water storage in an unheated space, and the extra plumbing and the extra engineering to make sure it can cope with the weight? And I looked at Sunamp, phase change material storage, and that's what we ended up going with.
Yeah.
So we've got...
So that choice was solely on a physical space decision.
Yeah, it was compromises that we were willing to make, was not lose all of the storage space in that airing cupboard, because we did need it.
Oh, so it went in the storage cupboard, but for those that don't know, a Sunamp is is just like a little box. It's depending on the capacity of it, but it can be half the size of a cylinder, maybe even less. Quarter
of the size. Quarter of the physical volume for the same equivalent hot water capacity.
Yeah.
So pretty major difference in terms of what space you need. But it's also cubic. So there's
it's like a rectangular box that you can slide into a corner.
It's designed to fit under kitchen cabinets. So it's supposed to go. It's the idea is that it's the dimensions that would fit under a kitchen cabinet if that's the only space you had to put it.
Yeah. And what size is that compared to an equivalent cylinder?
They call it a 210.
Right.
So 210 litres, which on paper should be enough for I think 4-bed. We've got 3-bed, but I like long showers. So we went for a bigger one.
Yeah.
Glad I did. But yeah, the downside of a Sunamp is that they're as heavy as they without water, pretty much as they are with.
Wow. So you need to do anything special because it was on the first floor.
A stair climbing robot thing.
Wow.
To get it up the stairs. I think it's 230 kilos.
Wow.
So it's it's compact, but it's heavy.
Yeah.
Climbed the stairs with a power assisted an EV stair climber.
Did you have to do anything for the floor? Did you have to?
Yeah. Well, it was already where the walls crossed, so it was already a strong.
Oh, you're all right.
Strong point of the house, but we put another a 3/4 thick. It's basically a second layer of floorboard to spread it.
Yeah, you spread the load.
Yeah, and it was easier because then it lifted it slightly higher than the surrounding carpet and floor, so it made moving it into there much easier.
Right.
So there was kind of a double. It served two purposes by having it lifted up slightly. But yeah, that solved our hot water problem. But that meant that we were restricted on choice of heat pump because it needed a higher charging temperature.
Yeah.
Because it needs the PCM changes at 57, so you need above 60, 62.
Yeah, so back then you were probably struggling for heat pumps that went above sort of 50.
Yes, that was so we had I think Aerotherm Plus had been out from Valent, which did 65, and then Samsung had just brought out their HTQ, their high temperature quiet, which Jez from at the time Midsummer had fitted in his house, and yeah, I thought that's new. The marketing looked amazing.
Yeah.
To be honest, the heat pump looked good on paper, but it was a Samsung.
Sorry to interrupt, but just a quick word from the sponsor of today's episode, my own Energy Stats UK website. Energy Stats UK is an independent energy data website focused on smart tariffs, renewables and real-world home electrification. It provides daily and historical pricing data for a variety of Octopus Energy and EDF smart tariffs. There are plain English guides explaining smart tariffs, wholesale pricing and time of use energy, as well as in-depth blogs covering heat pumps, solar PV, batteries, EV charging and full home electrification. If you are thinking about switching suppliers, there's a free credit offer on the site if you do decide to switch, along with a whole host of other referral opportunities on the Support the Site page. With that, thank you very much and back to the episode.
That's where it that's where I learned a lot.
Yeah. So from our brief back and forth over the years, you've not been a massive fan of your Samsung HQT.
HTQ, come on.
Oh, sorry, HTQ. High temperature quiet.
Temperature. I mean, it was before if you think when we fitted it, in hindsight, if I'd waited even 6 months, the choice of R290 units would have been a lot more. But at the time, there was the Aerotherm Plus on R290, and everything else on the market was pretty much R32, and limited by the temperature. All except the HTQ, which had, I think it's got re-injection, which allows it to go
a bit higher
with the same refrigerant. But yeah, now now it wouldn't be anywhere near as restrictive. There's so many choices you could have that would solve that.
Yeah.
And you could have you wouldn't be, unless you deliberately went for an old model now. They'd all be able to do it. They'd all work with it.
Yeah, everyone seems to have brought their own R290 model out now, and there's not much R32 left, is there?
No, but they're still selling them because presumably for the clearances that are required. Some installs. But yeah, we fitted it just before the sort of mass change to R290, so we were really limited on choices. Anyway, we went with the Samsung. It works. It does what it's meant to do. It does.
Most heat pumps work, and if they don't work, it's usually down to design and commissioning and installation. The actual units themselves work, don't they?
Yeah,
and some of the problem also comes down to the controls themselves and as we know, some manufacturers have got better controls than others, and I'm not going to brag about my Valent, but my Valent's got quite good controls.
I mean, I can. What's the opposite to bragging? I can opposite brag. The Samsung controls are frustrating.
Yeah.
There's some really, really easy wins they could make to improve it, but they just haven't.
And does it get any updates, or is it sort of just been?
It's had a few updates.
Yeah.
Compared to when it was first fitted, it's a lot better than it was, but there's still some really frustrating issues with the firmware which they still haven't fixed.
How do these frustrations sort of come out in your life?
So the biggest frustration is Samsung use pulse width modulation controlled circulation pump. This is an external. This is a pump in the house that lives in the airing cupboard, so you can hear it.
Right.
But it's not outside in the unit.
Pump is not in the outside unit.
No, it's not an integrated unit. And again, at the time, that was probably more certainly that wasn't.
Back then, so for the listeners, like my Valent, everything it needs apart from one little control box is in the outdoor unit. So
the outdoor unit,
the compressor, absolutely everything you need is in. So you don't hear it because it's outside. But brands like Samsung, Mitsubishi, maybe a Nibi, I can't remember, need a pump to obviously distribute the water around your circuit. But that is an external from the outdoor unit, so that has to obviously then be inside somewhere.
Yeah. And Samsung do both models now. They do an integrated and a non-integrated, same basic hardware, but with the bits or not the bits. So anyway, our one has got an external control of the variable pump, so PWM. So it has full control of how fast that pump works.
Yeah.
It could choose whatever it likes. Has nothing to stop it. Yet it decides that even when you decide to limit the speed to say 70%, because you don't need the full output of the pump all the time, it goes full chat at 3 in when it doesn't need anything like that. It's the firmware effectively ignores any user settings while it's in its startup mode.
Right.
Which I don't know if this is most heat pumps, but they've usually got like a safety start period where there's a minimum compressor output for a period of time to make sure oil's circulated and ensure, and you get the pressure differential build up quickly so it starts working efficiently. So during that startup period, the pump runs flat out, irrespective of whatever controls you put on it. You have no override. So I fixed that, but that's geeky. I've basically created a man-in-the-middle controller that looks at the Samsung signal goes, "You're talking rubbish," and then alters it and puts out a proper signal that does its job properly.
But people shouldn't have to be doing this, should they?
No, that's what I say. It's one of the biggest frustrations of, and something that's so easily fixed.
Yeah.
I did put a post on LinkedIn that Graham Hendra looked at, because he's now working in his new R&D role, talking about how a heat pump controller has full visibility of everything that's going on in its own system, yet they don't behave gracefully. Like when the diverter valve changes, the pump's still going flat out. You're like, if you're changing gear, you ease off the accelerator before you press the clutch. It's not hard. You're controlling everything.
Yeah, and you see everything. Yeah,
exactly. Back the pump off when you change gear, or back the pump off when you change the diverter valve. So the diverter valve's not working against a load of pressure. And great idea. Well, that's what mine does. If the heat pump needs to change to go to hot water from radiator, the pump backs off just for a few seconds, just to allow it to change the position, and then goes back to where it was. But that's an enhancement, as it were, from the Samsung. The pure frustration point of view is that there is a setting that allows you to limit the pump speed, and that's supposed to be a maximum setting that pump should ever do. The settings that you put in there for the maximum speed they're overridden in lots of different circumstances. And what I've found with the HTQ is it's very limited on its range of operation. It's an 8 kilowatt unit, but in its first versions of software, it was lowest output was about 4 kilowatts, which is by current standards is pretty poor.
It is.
But that meant in the fringe months, it spent a lot of time cycling.
Yeah.
So that time when it was doing its safety start, about every 20 minutes, it would do 9 minutes of the pump going flat out.
Oh God!
And if you've seen a central heating pump and whacked it on speed 3 and listened to it at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's quite loud.
Yeah.
It's very annoying. And that's basically the same thing that this would do, is it would put the pump to 100% output every time it started up. So anyway, that's my biggest bugbear of the Samsung.
What about the controls themselves?
So the Samsung uses a bit of a different system to most. They do have what they call water law, which is weather comp.
Yeah.
So that's your effectively a curve that you put in, four temperatures that you put in, which dictate the curve, and it effectively, depending on the outside temperature, dictates your flow temperature. That's all it does. It doesn't have any form of load compensation or any room influence of any description. The only thing they do have is a limit stat, which you can either use the controller display unit as the limit stat, with just like an on-off. Doesn't have anything else, just an on-off. But most of the Samsungs I've seen installed, definitely on Eco, is that they've used an external standard thermostat or a Hive or something like that.
And it just on-off signals.
It's just on-off, yeah. I mean, if you know how it works, it's okay, because it is just a limit. That's all you're using it for. So in theory, if you've got your weather comp dialed in properly, it just turns the system off when everything's a little bit too hot.
Yeah.
And if you get it right, you don't really notice it. But that's generally Samsung's. When you hear of people that have got nightmare situations, it's quite often they've got things like TPI thermostats or smart thermostats that have been plumbed in, thinking they're going to be better, and actually all they're doing is they're strangling it and turning it on and off too many times.
Yeah. Have you considered using something like Avonwise to control it?
Yeah. I mean, I fitted Homely when the system was first installed.
Yeah.
Probably before I gave the Samsung controls a chance to figure out their weirdness and make it work at its best. Homely was good, but it struggled to cope with the minimum output of the heat pump. It was fine in that it would predict the cold weather and when the house needed to warm up, and it was good at the time I was on Agile as well. It was good at kind of not uncomfortably, which I know you you've pointed out before, slightly overcharging the house for heat so that you took advantage of your cheap bit. So if you had, Agile's nice because you can see the next 24 hours.
Almost
so you
like
can see what's going to
happen.
Yeah, you can map out a plan, and it did a really good job of mapping that out and working comfortably and saving as much money as possible. But it wasn't very good at the lower end at dealing with the Samsung cycling.
And the Valent is good at that, but then when you look at some of the new ones, like the new Grant, the 9 kilowatt, what comes down to something ridiculous. Like
it's the Grant units. I mean, I know a few of the good installers have got them fitted now, but on paper the Grant unit looks amazing.
There's a 4 kilowatt version that modulates down to 1.4 or something.
Yeah,
it's like wow, amazing. So what that means in reality is that for large parts of the year it just runs sort of 24/7 because
it's not doing as much cycling or as much.
It's not having to turn itself off because the heat required in the house is lower than the minimum modulation, and I wrote an article all about that. If anyone wants to read it, I'll link to that in the show notes.
That's a good one. That one, I like that one. Yeah, I mean that part. I mean, again, this is some of this is a bit irrelevant now because the newer models aren't so heavily affected by this. But when the HTQ came out from Samsung, they basically launched, I think it's 4 models at the same time, but they're actually all share the same hardware. So it's actually like a 14. It's the same compressor as a 12 or 14 kilowatt heat pump.
The Dakins are bad for that as well, I think.
And the trouble is, it means that the compressor isn't in its butter zone, if you like. The comfort, the compressor is not in its best area when it's working at its lowest output.
Yeah.
So asking a 14 kilowatt compressor or capable compressor to operate at under 4 kilowatts was effectively what it was being asked to do.
The Valents, the 3.5 and the 5 are the same. The 7's on its own, that's just its own thing, and the 10 and the 12 are the same thing, just derated a little bit. And I know that lots of the Dakins are almost the same unit. So I suppose this is why you need to go to an installer that understands this stuff, and it's probably why you see a crap ton of Valents everywhere, because they do what they're supposed to do and they do it well. And maybe you're going to see a lot of Grants now because this minimum modulation is a lot better.
Yeah, they seem to have nailed the controls quite well. With the new Grant.
Who made the decision? Who sent you down the Samsung route?
Probably mostly me, because it was
all your fault, Paul.
It's my fault. I in hindsight, I would probably now I'd fit a Grant probably. In the same situation, but that's the benefit of hindsight and product and the new products that are available now that weren't out.
Well, that's always the same, isn't it? I suppose you've now got another 5 years to wait or something till your Samsung starts going belly up and replace it.
It's got a 7-year warranty. I mean, if it lasts 7 years trouble free, the next one probably won't be a Samsung unless they change
something
what they're doing, which they may. It's a long time.
Yeah,
I think a lot's happened in the time since that's been fitted. So that's 3 years ago now, or 2.5 years ago now. But in that time, an awful lot more products are out.
So there's been lots of complaints there from noisy and controls and stuff. But performance wise, is it all right?
Yeah, can't knock it. It's really good.
And this is what I'm saying. I think if the system's designed right, heat pumps, whether they're R32, R290, whatever, really as long as you're running them well, like low flow temperatures with an open loop design, the performance is great.
So what you said earlier about how the firmware and how things have changed, that is the biggest difference from when it was fitted to the most recent firmware update. It now is so much better at lower output.
Right.
I can now set flow temperatures at 32, 30, or it can do flow temperatures 32, 33 degrees. We're only radiators, and they're conservatively sized. They are designed around 46 maximum at design. So they're not huge. They're not K3s. We've got mostly K2s and existing radiators. it will do a 32 flow temperature just as well as it will do 36 or 37, whereas when it was first installed, we had to have 36, 37, maybe 38.
Yeah, I remember Glyn from Open Energy Monitor. He for a while he gave up on the weather comp and just ran it at sort of 35 flow. His old Samsung, because he says it just worked better.
It does, yeah. I mean, there's something weird in there. I don't know what the threshold points, but they do have different thresholds for working strategies, and it depends on the flow temperature demand. So, if you set it on fixed flow temperature and then or water law, and it's decided that's the conditions for those temperatures, it used to be a lot. Once it got to 35, it would forget it. Anything below that, it wouldn't. It would be cycling every 5 or 6 minutes, or trying to. They changed a few things on the last software update. One of them was the ability to run low and slow better, and it does. However, it's still a big unit and
oversized. Is it oversized? Do you think for your property?
From a hot water, well, this is the difference. I'd say no. From taking consideration of hot water recharge times and how much water we need, and from a comfort perspective, I'd say it's about right. Our heat loss is probably just between 5.5 and 6. We're a bit exposed on a hillside. If we've got driving rain and wind, it needs most of what it's got.
Yeah.
We could, on paper, we could have gone a smaller unit, but they weren't out. I mean,
no.
that was the smallest high temperature unit.
Probably until the Valent came out properly. Yeah. I suppose going back to the hot water, then that's as two people coming from a combi boiler that had limitless, constant, never ran out hot water, and you could spend half an hour stood there, and gas used to be 2p, and who cared? And
you could have a 2-hour shower, no one would notice.
And it cost you like 20 pence or something.
As long as someone else didn't flush the toilet somewhere.
Yeah, you got a dash of cold.
Or a dash of hot.
Oh yeah, well, it depends how good your shower was, I suppose.
Golden, yeah.
Yeah, it depends how good your
yeah, it's a big culture change going back to stored hot water.
Yeah, well, personally, maybe we did when I was a kid, but in all my adult life, I've had a combi, and all I've known is turn the hot tap on and there's hot water there.
Well, maybe I'm different. Maybe I'm the other way round. I only had. I'm trying to think. I think this is the first house I've owned with a combi.
Is it? Wow.
Every other house I guess it's just age and the age of the properties and things, but every other house I've lived in has had a hot water tank.
So you've always had that sort of notion that water is limited, but that's in a. So this is the big difference for people if you haven't got a heat pump yet, and you say you have got a cylinder but it's attached to a gas boiler. That gas boiler can kick out 32 kilowatts and not even think about it, and it'll reheat a tank of water in about 10 minutes. Yeah. Whereas
I mean, I remember having fitting it. We had a new boiler and a new cylinder fitted in a house, and I remember reading the specs, like recovery times. It's all about surface area and things, but recovery times. It was like maximum recovery time for a complete empty tank is like 18 minutes. I was blown away by this, but it is just everything's just way too big.
Well, this is why combi boilers have these big 32 kilowatt, 36 kilowatt rating. It's because it's primarily on the hot water side. It's to satisfy the hot water demand. Most houses, I had a 32 kilowatt Valent combi, and my heat loss, even before I made changes, was probably 5 kilowatts.
Yeah.
And the minimum output on the heating side of that combi was 6.
Well,
so it cycled unless it was -7 outside, it cycled.
Cycling continuously.
Yeah.
And every time, ours was a glowworm or whatever, but that's the UK budget version of Valent, in effect. Yeah. That was a 38 kilowatt boiler in the loft, and every time it fired up, it used to make a woof.
Yeah.
and you could feel it through the house. And 3 o'clock in the morning, cycling at when it was not freezing cold. Obviously, way too big for the house.
Yeah.
It was cycling every couple of minutes, and it was same problems you have with a heat pump, I guess. But
So now I've got a 250 litre cylinder. You've got an equivalent 210
210,
litre Sunamp. You've got is it a 6 kilowatt Samsung?
8 kilowatt.
8 kilowatt Samsung, and I've got a 5 kilowatt Valent heat pump. So the recharge times now on our hot water storage are way slower than any sort of gas boiler could do it. Like you said, that 18 minutes from cold it could be
For a full tank,
2 hours.
yeah.
2 hours
Yeah.
from cold. And
I
while this sounds like sensationalism, that they're terrible, and you just have to.
Different.
It's different. Yeah, it's just different. And you have to.
It's just a bit slower.
It's a bit
And
slower. You have to plan ahead.
You have to factor that in when you're looking at your installer should look at factoring that in when they're designing the system, because all the time it's making hot water, it's not making heat for the radiators.
Yeah.
So if you're on a particularly cold day and you use a lot of hot water, if you've got lots of occupants in a household, all the time it's doing that, it's not warming the house up.
Yeah.
And that's why is the 8 kilowatt oversized? You asked, is the 8 kilowatt oversized? I don't think it is for us.
No.
Ideally, I'd like it to go lower. In an ideal world,
Yeah.
8 kilowatt on the top end.
Ultimately, the wish list. I think the wish list for homeowners like us to smooth that transition from a gas boiler is have like really low heating modulation, but at the same time be able to kick out like 20 kilowatts or something.
Yeah, well,
I know
we're
we're battling physics there, but
I think so.
Have really high output for hot water,
Yes.
but then being able to modulate really low on the. It's probably impossible, and Graham Hendry will be laughing at us for making such a wild thing.
Stupid people.
Yeah, lots of you stupid homeowners. You don't know what you're talking about. No, not the Graham.
Yeah, an 8-10 kilowatt heat pump for a 5 kilowatt heat loss home, but with the ability to modulate down, but still remain efficient. One of the things that I've always said is that modulation on its own is not the answer.
No,
because there's no point in being able to modulate down if the cop just goes through the floor, because it's not efficient there.
And also the controls have to be good, and to be fair to the Valent ones, they handle cycling really well, because they've got this internal algorithm, this energy integral that does that for you. So yeah,
they've got a block, haven't they, as well, for like a minimum off time.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah,
which the Samsung.
I've never had to touch it, because it just this internal counter does it for you. Even when it's not on, it's counting, like it's measuring target temp versus actual temp, so it knows how much is cooling going on, then whether it needs to come back on again. So
I'm pretty sure the Samsung doesn't have anything like that.
No, but then this is why lots of installers, you don't see lots of installers fitting Samsungs anymore.
No, because literally it's an on-off switch on your wall stat to enable the system, and then it will take over and do your what they call water law, your weather comp.
So who did that? We know that design is key, and open loop, not having zones and not TRVing off rads is very important when it comes to performance. Who sort of designed the system? Was that your installer, or were you?
Okay.
You did that. You're not a regular homeowner, Paul, and that's what people tell me. That's the brush people tell me with, and I'm happy with that.
I was doing my renewable energy module at the time, and doing building fabric, heat loss, heat pumps and heating systems in general. So it's kind of like a natural.
Yeah.
It was almost my own personal project.
Yes. Yeah.
And fortunately, one of my customers is does a lot of work for a installer company, and I just got chatting with them, and they were fully on board with me doing as much as possible, and then effectively just checking to make sure I'm not done something stupid.
That's good.
And they did, and that's how it was. So I had a good hands-on involvement, which I learnt a lot, and I really enjoyed. Some of it was really, quite head scratchy at times, but I did enjoy it, the process.
But not everyone has to go to our levels. You should hopefully find an installer that you can put trust in that they're going to do that for you. And I think things have vastly improved since we had our units installed. I think as long as you get the right installer, I think the knowledge and the tools have come a long way. So you've got the likes of Spruce and Carno and all these AI-inspired tools that you've now got engineers going around with iPads going, well, that wall's it's this size, and
just so much more awareness in the like. Nobody talked about heat pumps and heating systems in general 5 years ago. Now, and certainly since 2023 when I did mine or had mine installed, you just podcast after podcast. Got Nathan Gambling.
Yeah.
He's done a hell of a lot to make it at forefront of people's from a technical point of view, at least the people in the industry, and people just don't. It's more visible. People can call people out now because they understand stuff that they didn't understand before.
Yeah.
And there have been historically some cowboys out there.
Yeah.
And I think now people are more educated and they can see that a mile off, or they hopefully can see that a bit easier.
We still get horror stories, don't we? But what I like is obviously Heat Geek changed the whole landscape and around education and design and stuff, how important it was. But like the big players are now doing it. Like British Gas have got sort of James Law in. British Gas have got James Law in charge. They're using H2X design software. EDF have got Clayton Brown CB Heating, and they're using Carno. So they're all capable of doing a really good job now. In a way, there are some amazing single installers and stuff like Damon and all his crew. But in a way, it might be safer sticking with a big installer, because at least you've got the comeback of a multinational to sort of fall back on.
It's the reassurance side of things. Is like heat pumps work.
They do.
That's not debate. That's not a debate. Heat pumps work. If you don't cock up the design or the installation, it's going to do the job.
Yeah.
The different levels of efficiency that can be achieved through design will always going to have some sort of offset against how much you want to spend up front.
Absolutely.
And that's where Heat Geek zero disrupt. You choose. There's a minimum standard, and then you pay a bit more, and you go up and up and up.
Yeah.
And I think all that stuff and the AI software that's been used to create that and give multiple choice options is a game changer for.
Absolutely. EDF have got one as well, and I can't remember what it's called, but it does the same thing. You're basically saying, do you want to if you replace all 10 rads, it'll cost you this, and your efficiency will be way better, but it'll take
20 years to get your money back.
But if you just have a few pipes replaced, one rad, it'll cost you them very little over and above the upgrade scheme, and it'll still run decent.
Yeah,
it's a sliding scale.
A pragmatic approach to how much you want to spend to get a working system that's sensible. I mean, I was
guilty. I went that way, and we went 9 rads, and I wanted 40 flow in a 1930s semi, and that's what I've got.
The opposite. I did the bare minimum.
Did you?
I did that in 2020. And I thought the only place I could do it is my own house.
Yeah.
Because no one else will put up with it if it doesn't work.
And back then, I think most installers were on my side of the sort of slider, that they wanted it in a way to cover their own backs, maybe.
I think mostly it was, but then also back then, I mean, this is only 3 years ago. Sounds like we're talking donkeys years ago, but I got a couple of quotes, and both of them insisted on separation. It was like Stiebel Eltron, high-end system, but basically the heat pump was what they were fitting.
Yeah.
And then they were fitting a buffer tank, and anything beyond the buffer tank was someone else's problem. Like that was your heating engine, your plumber. And that didn't sit right with me. Like it's a complete system. You have to treat it like an integrated system. And that's kind of why I sort of decided to be a bit more hands-on with it. And to be honest, no one else was going to sit in my airing cupboard and replumb it like I had to. to fit the Sunamp in there. There's no room. It was bloody horrible, if I'm honest.
So now you've got the solar. So you've got the heat pump installed. We've got solar. Did the car eventually go back, or did that help?
So
Did
the
that help
30
smooth out the costs with the heat pump?
The 30 kind of reached the end of its practical usable life when the gearbox exploded on it, which I then replaced, and then decided that was the moment it probably needs to go. Because to be fair, it had cost nothing more than tyres and wiper blades up to that point. Really good. To be honest, Leaf, I rate the Leaf a lot. So much so that we went and got another one.
Wow.
The 30 went and got replaced by a nearly new, like 1,200 miles on the clock, 40 kilowatt last year, for pretty much the same price that we'd paid for the 30 kilowatt 4 or 5 years previously. Because the new Leaf comes out now. I think it might be out now.
That's the Renault 5 really. But...
Because the new Leaf was coming out, the old Leaf suddenly tanked in price.
Yeah, I remember seeing some amazing lease deals sort of towards the end.
Well, we paid under 15 grand for a list price 29.9. 8 months previous. It was 8 months old, but with 1,200 miles on the clock.
Wow. So were you still in the trial then? Could you still do the vehicle to grid with it?
No, we were out of the trial. I'm trying to think. I actually pulled the plug on the trial because, the trial had finished, but OVO had carried on the rates at the same agreed rates that we'd signed up for as part of the trial, but their import rates were way more than Octopus, and I thought let's have a look, and I did the maths for changing to Go, and it worked out actually that we were way better off getting rid of our enhanced export rate, which wasn't as good as it was when we first set out on it, and we switched to Octopus. So we went with Go, and I think it was 8p export at the time.
Yeah, the first incarnation of the Smart Export Guarantee.
Yeah, it was the slightly enhanced version of the bare minimum.
Yeah.
But that was that was, trying to think what year that would have been. 22 maybe.
Yeah.
I think
so pre-Ukraine, and then Ukraine happened, and Russia, and then the energy crisis, and the exports went up to 15p.
Except for Go.
Yeah,
Go was still capped. So I did a dabble with Agile.
Yeah.
And because it was just to play with a bit of software, really, to figure stuff out and have a bit of a see what you can get out of it. And it was, do you know what? It was hard work.
You need Agile's amazing.
That fixed period, middle of the night, doesn't really matter what everything else was going on, but you knew you had 4 or 5 or 6 hours of a set rate. If it all went wrong, you knew you could to get everything back up to charged and done in that cheap period. That was a struggle to do without by switching to Agile.
Yeah.
So we went back to Go again, and then
what were you doing to schedule all this? Had you got something in charge, or were you looking every day at the rates?
Home Assistant.
Yeah.
Home Assistant to automate as much as possible. We had Homely at the time for the heating and hot water. Battery charge was just set to, with Home Assistant, effectively if it's a cheap rate, charge. Yeah. If it was a negative rate, you know.
Yeah. Turn everything on.
Turn everything. Yeah. I think that's what moved me to Agile. Was one weekend there was the rate was like minus 10p.
Yeah.
And I had and I switched over that weekend. And it was a instant switch as well. So it was literally that weekend I had an electric heater in my summer house, which I'm now sat in. Summer house, they call it summer house. It's freezing. It's winter. I had the electric heater outside the door turned on, and everything in the house switched on.
That's not very green, is it?
Really
that's not
bad.
Very green, Paul.
It's really bad. It was only one time, I promise, just to see what I could do, and yeah, it wasn't worth it.
Are you still able to use the vehicle to grid then, and use the car as a home battery?
Yeah, we do. I got quite pally with some of their developers, and managed to convince them to give me effectively a back end access to it. So I've got it's only a command line a command line access to the charger to allow it to basically manually do what you would do by pressing the buttons or using their app, because their app kind of became defunct when the trial ended.
Yeah.
They've now since had a new trial called Vehicle to Home, which is run by Indra, not by Ovo, with new software. But we didn't get involved with that. But
so
yeah,
in essence, you've got your 10 kilowatt hour SolarEdge, and you've got your 40 kilowatt hour Leaf on the drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And the Leaf is like the lower priority. When it looks like we won't make it through an evening with the SolarEdge battery, the Leaf will kick in and effectively just chuck out a constant feed.
So you must almost be sort of self-sustained then off the two batteries through most of the year.
Yeah, I mean we could be through. With two.
Are you still on it? Are you on Intelligent or something now?
Yeah, we're on Intelligent, which the thing with the Leaf is it's all vehicle to grid's great if the car's at home. And that's, people kind of forget that. They go, we don't need a home battery. But if your car's sat on the driveway all day long, fine. But actually, you might have to go out in your car every now and again. And it's quite nice to have something sitting there avoiding buying peak rate electricity. I mean, the reality is the Leaf doesn't get a huge amount of work from providing power to the house. Really small. Wow. Because of Intelligent, you get those little SIP top-ups.
Yeah.
You plug the car in. I mean, our typical morning is I'll go and drop the kids off at nursery, come home and plug it straight in. Force a habit, always just plug the car in. It comes from having a small battery with a low range. But yeah, get home, plug it in. So it left on a full charge. I've done a round trip, come back in, plug it in. In that half an hour, 40 minutes it's charging, the hot water will be doing its thing. The SolarEdge battery will be back up to 100% again.
Yeah.
And generally that'll last throughout the day.
Wow.
Until most times, come home in the evening and plug it in, and you'll get a little window of intelligent charge that just tops things back up. You don't need loads. I mean, that's what I found.
Not for a house. No, not for a house. It's even with a heat pump and everything else. It's
no, exactly. I remember having a conversation with Fully Charged, the show at Farnborough. I went there and I was talking to one of the guys from Indra that used to work at Bosch heat pumps. I said, I'm thinking of putting a heat pump in and using the vehicle to grid to power it. And he went, no, that'll never work. Well, it does.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fine. If needs be, the house will run off the car all day and probably most of the night.
Yeah. You only need really cold, those 10 days a year when it's constantly sub-zero.
And that's pretty much that is the times when the car kind of it fills that gap. Yeah. Would I lose any sleep if we'd run out of power and we were paying cheap peak rate electricity?
For
no,
10,
because it occurs
10 days.
Tiny proportion of the year, and that's what people forget.
Yeah.
Is they look at I see it all the time on the Facebook forums. Like, oh, my electricity's cost me £15 today. I went, it's -4.
Yeah. Like,
and the rest of the year
come back to me when it's 8 degrees and you're getting a cup of 5. Then come and talk to me.
Yeah, like
take a step back.
How much would your gas bill be in the same circumstances?
Exactly. Take a step back. The performance is SCOP for a reason, seasonal coefficient of performance across the whole period, across the whole year. Take a step back and see what it looks like. Then don't panic when it's -2 and that it's got a bit pricey that day. It's just
because it does. It does. When the temperature plummets, the COP drop. The COP drops off. You're working harder. You
buy more electricity. Yeah. And then a week later, it's 8 degrees and everyone's happy.
Exactly. Again. But if you have visibility of it, compare your gas consumption for the same period, and it will make you go, oh look, I'm using far less.
Yeah.
Far less. Even if you've got a heat meter or a heat pump that tells you how much heat it's generated, compare that to your gas consumption from the year before, and it's an eye opener. How much gas was wasted.
Yes.
We're 30-40% less heat required than our previous gas consumption.
Wow.
And that was with a so-called condensing efficient boiler.
A condensing, non-condensing boiler.
Yeah, condensing boiler that made load of plumes of vapour. So
Yeah,
wasn't
my neighbour's. We won't even have time to talk about the noise and stuff. But my neighbour's combi boiler makes a lot more noise than my Valent heat pump.
Mine used to wake me up in the middle of the night to make the ceiling shake as it cycled five times an hour or something.
Right,
But,
I think we should close it there before we.
Yeah.
We could go on. I know we could go on for all afternoon, but we've got.
I'm going to say, have we got through anything like what we planned to get through?
No, not at all. It just went completely off piste after about 10 minutes, but that's good.
We wouldn't be chatting with me if it wasn't like that.
No, it's been brilliant, Paul. Thanks a lot for your time, and I'll talk to you soon.
We'll have to catch up and try and fill some more of that list.
Yeah. I actually talk about the things we'd planned to talk about. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Cheers,
all right, mate. Catch you soon. Cheers.
Take care. Bye.